सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी।
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी।
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी।
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी।
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी।
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी।
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी।
गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी।
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
गोविंद गिरिधारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी।
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी।
श्याम सुंदर मदन मोहन वृंदावन बिहारी। वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी। वृंदावन बिहारी गोवर्धन गिरिधारी। गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी। गोविंद 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 गिरिधारी। गोविंद गिरिधारी। गोविंद गिरिधारी। ये वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। भज मन राधे गोविंदा। भज मन राधे गोविंदा। भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
भज मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी।
भज मन वृंदावन संचारी।
मन वृंदावन संचारी।
भज मन वृंदावन संचारी।
मन वृंदावन संचारी।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन यमुना तीर विहारी।
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 भज मन राधा चेतोहारी।
मन राधा चेतोहारी।
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी।
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा।
भज मन राधे गोविंदा। मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी,
मन गोवर्धन गिरिधारी,
भज मन वृंदावन संचारी,
मन वृंदावन संचारी,
भज मन यमुना तीर विहारी,
मन यमुना तीर विहारी,
भज मन राधा चेतोहारी,
मन राधा चेतोहारी,
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा,
मन राधे 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 गोविंदा,
भज मन राधे 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 गोविंदा,
मन राधे 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 गोविंदा,
भज मन राधे गोविंदा,
मन राधे गोविंदा,
भज मन राधे गोविंदा,
मन राधे गोविंदा,
भज मन राधे गोविंदा। बोले राधावर कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम, 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 श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम,
श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम, श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम, श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम, श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all see me and hear me clearly? It's been a while that we have not had this chick class. I can only say that I am so glad to be back, especially with the Brahmacharins, both Brahmacharini Divya and Hari Chaitanya being hit by COVID, and it took them about 2 weeks to recover from it. And now that they are back, the full army is back. I think both of them have little fatigue and feel drained out. So I will not put them on task today. I'll try to handle it all by myself. But let's see. If I need some help, then I will always pull them in. You both okay though? Hari and Divya. Okie dokie. So we are back, and it'll be the questions from us, and answers from you. And we have three of you, Dhimant, Kartika, and Siddhartha. So I'm excited. Hope you are also equally excited. We will begin with the Oms and Sahana Bhavatu, Guru Brahma, and after the invocation, we'll jump right into the questions. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः Trying to open the questions. If you can just give me a minute. See, with the 3 weeks gap, there has been so much change that has happened on the software updates, especially on the OBS and then the Zoom, and things have changed drastically because we have not touched it. In the last half an hour, I've been running up and down, in and out, trying to figure out how the new software is going to work. And in all that, I didn't keep the questions ready. I thought everything was ready and in place. Never mind, we are there. Okay, let's see who wants to go in first. We have Ashwin, Siddharth, Dhimant, and Kartika. Let's go with Kartika.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. I think 1 second. There you go. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Swamiji. Aap kaise ho?
मैं तो बढ़िया हूँ,
Awesome.
चंगा हूँ. That would be Punjabi though.
Punjabi.
Are you ready with your for your question?
Of course.
Okay. The question is, we tend to lose our balance because we identify with the body, mind, intellect layer, which have no stability. So is balance impossible to achieve as long as I'm identified with my equipment?
Swamiji, I do think that as long as, you know, we are identified with that equipment, we won't have that sense of stability in our mind or in our lives. I think, you know, the fact that we have to operate through our BMI, that's a given. Even people who are, you know, at the point of self-realization, they still have their BMI. It's not like that is gone when we, you know, we have that understanding or realization, but when we identify with it and when we create new desires through our BMI, you know, and we don't have that sense of detachment from it, I think there's always going to be that sense of instability in our lives.
Hari, do you have the patience to jump in? Okay, let me add you in. There you go.
So one thing that struck me about the sentence was, how do I define what balance is? If it's an understanding that I get to a point where things are okay and I'm aligned physically, mentally, intellectually, I'm able to perform duties the way I should in an efficient manner, is that balance? Or am I expecting that the state will be perennial, it'll always last? If the latter is my definition of balance, I'm in for disappointment, because that never lasts. So looking at what is balance and seeing that stability is not always going to be there, but when it does come, am I able to take advantage of that? And even if I'm identified with the equipment, if I have that understanding as I work, then I won't be in for so much disappointment.
So what do we do when we have that disappointment that hits us? How do we realign ourselves?
Satsang is the best. That's one way, is that recollection always that this is only finite. And my goal at the end of the day is not to make this a permanent state where everything is balanced. Because one, that's impossible. Two, what Vedanta teaches us is something far beyond that. So that understanding reiterated, and satsang helps with that.
The question is it looks very simple and straightforward. It's like when I was growing up, we used to take a public transport system, bus. And if there is somebody that was trying to write during the bumpy rides of the bus drive, because we had not finished our homework or something and we had to, you know, hurriedly finish it up, it is not the platform to try doing it, because there is no stability there. Why? Because the pen, the book, me, everything is in the bus and everything is moving. Everything is under the impact of it. But if there is to be found a stability, because we realize that there is one person who, it seems like, has an amazing skill to be in that bus and still continue as the bus conductor, who has to make notes of how much has been the sale, how many people have come in, how many people have dropped out, and things like that. And he seems to be finding that it's because even in that, though he's standing and the bus is moving, he tries to find one anchor where he can stabilize himself. So if we can start with the grossest aspect to stabilize, so the three acts of stability, three anchors for stability, the way I look at it, is at the physical level, we need the discipline. It may look mundane, it may look monotonous, it may look taxingly demanding, but that anchors us at the physical level. At the emotional level, it is the mind when it is connected to that Ishta Devata, the form of it, the worship of it, and through that devotion, So the first one was discipline. The second one is through devotion to that higher altar. Our minds very easily can dip down into the rut of things that are happening and find a sense of lack in things and start complaining about and gossiping about and dwelling into licking into those wounds. The only way to pick it up is to provide that higher reference, and that higher reference not out of any push, but it is the natural pull towards that higher, towards that altar of worship. So however intellectual one may be, I would still recommend them having a altar of worship, because that kind of automates the pull towards the higher. Otherwise the mind drags us down into the lower quite naturally. So the devotion helps. And the third one is with regards to the intellect, wherein the thing is, one aspect is to have a very clear understanding of what and how, the application of it. Having gotten it, there has to be a determined set that this is where I am trying to focus upon, and this is where I don't need to be distracted upon, because I have already seen that, been there, done that. Therefore, I should not be distracted, and that sense of determination helps. So discipline at the body level, devotion at the physical level, and at the emotional level, and determination, and to be steadfast in that determination at the intellectual level once we have attained to that sense of clarity. So these three anchors help us stabilize faster. So on the last note, having gone through a bumpy patch in life when we feel destabilized, where I'm not able to anchor myself, where I'm not able to find that stability, quickly we need to check what level is distracted. Is it at the physical level? Is it at the emotional level? Is it at the intellectual level? And then finding that anchor and fixing that anchor. And once the anchor is fixed, it is like three pipes going into the filler of the big pot. And if one of them is leaking, the pot will not fill itself. It will always be dripping out. We feel drained. So that has to be patched in, filled in, and I think we will be able to fix that anchor pretty good. So that is what I would like to add to all that which you have already discussed. Thank you both. I'm trying to remove spotlight. Okay, who wants to go next? Dhimant? He's like, no, I'm too new to this. One way or the other, you have to get in. Or do you want to wait till the next round? You can unmute yourself.
I'll wait till next week because I'm not ready yet. Because I'm not that ready yet.
See, I have to observe the micro reactions to gauge. Okay, let me ask. Ashwin, are you ready? Okie dokie. There you go. So let me see a question for you. Already satiated with the infinite bliss that the Mahatma, the realized one, is experiencing, he has become indifferent to the body and to the sense organs and their dharmas. Does this indifference extend to maintaining this body, to use it for any purpose?
I think that depends on that on the individual equipments, the part of the karma. So if the if the fate of that body or equipment is for it to keep on going and doing, maybe doing some action in the world, for example, maybe going and teaching or having disciples, maintaining an ashram or something, then that will happen. But for some people, their whatever they've done in the past, their karmas will culminate in just complete indifference. And that's why you'll have people who, when they reach that state, there's nothing else for that body to do, and it will just drop off. So that's why when you even see ascetics, right? If you go to the Himalayas or something, and different people have do different things, because even if someone reaches that state of transcending your worldly equipment, each equipment will act in a different way according to its own karma.
Okay, let me see, adding in Hari.
Only thing I'd add is that even for that Jivan Mukta, there is inspired activity at times. We see it so often that when inspiration hits, there is that inspired activity. Yet what's missing is that insistence on carrying out that is missing. Where if there is an obstacle to it, if things do not work out as planned, there is no imbalance in the mind caused by that. That's the only difference there.
See, the question is, does the indifference extend to maintaining the body? And then the second part of it, for any other better purpose or higher purpose. The first part of the question, I have seen many where, no, not just many, all of the Mahatmas with regards to the maintenance of the body, you can truly observe that it is on a autopilot, wherein there is no effort being put to maintain the body any further. Whatever is the prarabdha that brings that maintenance, they are fine with it, however it be. Whether it is sometimes an amazing banquet at a king's palace, or breaking the bread with somebody very poor but with good heart, they're sharing it, they're fine with equal regard. I've seen that happen with Puja Gurudev, where there are places where this has been my experience though. So I was assigned to go into his room and clean it up. And when I went in, there was hardly anything to clean because he had already done that. He had already made that place better than it was given before. That is when I realized that the bed that was given was not something that would even accommodate me, my height, that I would have to put my legs together, and that is when probably I would fit into that bed. So I amusedly looked at Swamiji and said, "Did Swamiji use this bed?" He said, "That's the best that can be used." So he pointed at the two chairs that were in the room. He said, "That one for the leg and this one for the head," acted as the extenders. And he stayed there without any complaints for 6 days. There was no huffing and puffing and, do you know who this Mahatma is? And, do you give such a small bed? There was absolutely nothing. Whatever prarabdha dished out, he was absolutely fine with it. So that is with regards to the maintenance of the body, the equipment, that whatever prarabdha brings, they're fine with it. Now, to use it for any higher purpose, that I think is where what Ashwin said, and what Brahmachari Hari also pointed out, is the prarabdha karma, whatever it brings, according to that particular equipment, they watch and witness it. happening through that body, mind, and intellect. And their samskaras provide a better expression, and that is the output of it. But when the results happen, I have seen them accept it with complete equanimity, that there is no disturbance of sorts inside. So that is how they see it and use it for the higher purposes. I think I will thank you both, but Hari, stay back. I will bring in Siddharth.
Hey,
Hari,
Swamiji.
Bonara.
Bonnanu, Mirela Naro.
Ati Uttamam. Okay. The question for you. A realized person is a dynamic, pulsating individual whose every moment of existence is dedicated to the service of humankind. What pushes the Jivan Mukta to serve the humankind if the unreality of the world is so clear? So I would want you to focus on what does it mean when we say the unreality of the world and the humankind or the humanity in that unreal world, and what does it mean to serve that. Okay, 3 parts to it.
I would think for a Jivan Mukta in such a case is that it's their Vatsalyam, it's their compassion that they see that everyone else around them, they're suffering. That suffering is due to their own ignorance, due to their own moha. But because everyone else is going through whatever they're going through and they think it is real, it is out of compassion to help them raise everyone else to that same level of understanding that this, whatever sorrows and sufferings that come, it's all just that aspect of samsara, but that is not, it's only what the equivalent, the karanas will go through, but that is not who they are. And so it's from that standpoint of compassion that a Jivan Mukta would go out and serve.
Okay, that answers one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, what does it mean when we say that the unreality of the world? What are we trying to indicate at that?
When Swamiji here says unreality, my understanding of that is asat, is the way that I'm understanding. It depends, I guess, on the semantics of which word and how you use it.
That's fine. My question then becomes, if it is asat, then the question comes, if it is asat, then why even put that effort?
My answer, I think, would be the same. It's out of compassion. They realize it's asat, but no one else does around them. Right? So
that is the key. Very nicely pointed out. That is the key. That they have realized it as asat, the others have not. And therefore the compassion flows towards that direction. Let's hear what Brahmachari Hari has to say. Hari Garu.
Going off of that, of what unreality is, another word that comes to mind is mithya, that which is false. And again, as Siddharth pointed out, it's not that it's false and negated completely. It's whichever standpoint we're looking at. From the Ajnani standpoint, yes, this all does seem real to me. If I go without food for 3 days, try telling me that the stomach is false and that this body is false at that point, right? I will definitely feel it. Now, when it comes to what does it mean for that Jivan Mukta to serve humankind, one more layer we can look at it with it is, there's a story that comes to mind when Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji encountered Bhagavan Sri Vedavyas ji, where the culmination of that meeting interaction they had was Vedavyas ji blessed him with another 16 years of life, saying, yes, I know you've only lived these 16 years and that was what you were given. However, the service you must do for Shruti Mata to uphold the Shruti is so much that you need these next 16 years to write more commentaries and to propagate this knowledge even more. So serving humankind, even if you say that, oh, it's for the unreality of the world here, supporting that eternal Shruti, when that's the duty of that Jivan Mukta, they see that's what I have to do, then it's not a question of unreality of the world, but it's, am I protecting and promoting the beauty of this eternal Shruti?
Which would kind of answer why did Puja Gurudev have to convince Swami Tapona Maharaj to even come down to the plains and put the amazing effort to reach out tirelessly for more than 35 years, where he would refuse to take a break. There was not a single holiday, vacation, downtime, or even medical events that happened in his life were used as a platform to produce that which professionals produce on a full gear system. Like several times that Puja Gurudev had, say, heart surgery, what do you call that, bypass surgery. It was 4 valves or 3 valves that had to be cleaned out and repiped. And after the surgery, within like 4 or 5 days, he said, okay, if I cannot travel outside, can I be at least provided paper and pen? So he, in that 1 month of sitting down, churned out the entire Bhagavad Gita manuscript. Okay, not just writing it down, but getting it to the printer to set it, print set, and then getting it back, proofreading it, sending it back. And by the day he was out, he carried with him, they say, to the next yajna, a packet of 5 packets of this Bhagavad Gita to be delivered, hand delivered and released in that yajna after the long medical recovery. After heart surgery, after that recovery, he produced a book. Usually producing a book, people need to find a spot and then get past the writing block and then find a decent environment, and then the mind has to be settled in, then they start writing it. He was in a hospital, tied down to a bed, and the food was monitored in such a way that the doctors would make sure that there is no sweet, no fries, no this, no that. And he didn't care. He didn't even look at it as to, what comfort. The inspiration flowed. And his guru, the inspiration was that he would take a walk into the Himalayas. That's why I love the comparison of these 2 sets of Guru Sishya. One is Swami Taponam Maharaj and Puja Gurudev. Okay, one was such an introvert that, he found even being in Uttarkashi was like being in a busy place. In those days, I'm talking about 60 plus or 70 plus years ago, he found Uttarkashi a busy place. So he would run into Himalayas into complete seclusion. And the students had to run after him and follow him, and then he would speak and people would listen. There was no satsang as a timing where you have the class schedule and then it has to be pinged onto the group and then told that these are the questions, please come. There was nothing of that kind. Like he starts walking and the students start following, and in that there is an inspired moment where he starts speaking on several topics or subjects. That was the master. And the student never stopped for 35 plus years and kept circling around the entire globe. Unstoppable was the force. Now, similarly, the other set of Guru and Sishya, I find, are Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Vivekananda ji. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa never left the vicinity of that particular Kali temple. So he stayed put, and at the most 3-4 kilometers, and he would walk around, come back. That was he would refuse to travel, he would refuse to go to any sabha or anything. Whereas Vivekananda ji, after he left the Indian shores, and even before, I think he traveled far and wide within India on foot. Once he left the Indian shores and then reached to US, I think the rest of his life he never stopped. It's like Bhagavan had a special prarabdha with these people where there are wheels attached to the feet, but there is no brake. They kept on circling around. I mean, so the kind of service that anything that has come through them, it ended up being the service of humankind. As Siddharth, you put it very beautifully, from their standpoint, they could see it as asat or mithya, and that unreal was very clear. But the compassion was that not long ago, I was there right in that position where the other person is, and I know very much as to how or where it hurts. That memory is still there. It is the same equipment. So that memory is still there. And I think it was more than once where not just Gurudev, but many Mahatmas have said that that is the compelling force that brings them towards the world, towards the seekers, saying that this is how we have grown, this is how we have gone through the process of sadhana, and this is how it benefits us. Okay. So thank you both. Now let's see if I can have second round. Are you ready, Kartika?
Yes, Swamiji.
चलो ऐड करते हैं. So let me see a question for you. What is the difference between responsibilities and rights?
In the simplest sense, I think responsibilities, once you fulfill them, that's when you attain your rights. So if we think about, like let's say if we think about the 4 ashramas, in the brahmacharya ashrama, our primary responsibility is to be a student in that sense, and gain whatever knowledge or skill set to proceed forward, and apply that in the later aspects of our life. If you take it as like a college student, once you fulfill all of the courses and complete all of those courses, then you have the right to your particular degree. But without doing everything that you need to, you can't just get your right. So I think, like I said, it's sequential, responsibilities come before your right. And oftentimes now people, I guess, abuse that in the sense that's opposite. They demand the rights first and then don't complete the responsibilities.
What will happen if that demand is reversed, where they are demanding one thing first, the rights first, and then think about fulfilling the responsibilities?
I think, well, I don't think there's going to be that sense of, I guess, just that sense of peace or that sense of completion. You like when you put that effort in and you attain something or you earn something, then there is that joy that, okay, I put this effort and this was the culmination, or this was the end result. May it be good or bad, but if you're just getting that right maybe good or bad, without putting the efforts, then I don't think there's that sense of like, what do I say? There's no hard work in that.
There is no hard work in that. Okay. Hari?
In two parts then. First, to answer the question directly, responsibilities are those which are non-negotiable, that are not add-ons to my life at all. These are things that must be done. Once those are fulfilled, then to go further, anything that I'm given to aid me in that progress going forward, once I've earned the right to have rights, then I go forward with those. And we can look at these sequentially, not just as two separate entities, but sequentially. Like, hey, Krishna, what's better, yoga or jnana? And he says, no, they're not different like that. They're sequential. In the same way here, once responsibilities have been completed to an extent, and I'm on that track, then the rights that I'll demand won't be those for my own comfort. They won't be those that only benefit me and exclude others. Those rights will aid me in that work that I do going forward that's in line with dharma. Because doing those responsibilities, my mind's become tame enough to understand what's right and wrong, what should be done, what should not be done. These rights give me a higher platform. They give me more amenities, whatever it is, to keep fulfilling those duties. And that's how it can be seen sequentially as well.
So the example, if I am not wrong, that I had given was the stop sign. See, about 20 years ago, when I was giving my driver's test, I was excited because of one particular example that I saw there that was in such alignment. Of all the books, it is that driver license test book which I was excited about, and I used to quote it a lot. I said, at the stop sign, four-way stop sign, you need to stop, count, what is it? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. That is when you count 2 seconds. And then allow the person that was before you to take the way. And then in your turn, cross the path. You stopping and counting for 2 seconds and then crossing over, that is the responsibility. That is, the book stated, that is your responsibility, and thus you are given the right of way. See, that is the language that they use. It's called the right of way. To who? To the one who has fulfilled the responsibilities. It's not like, I feel like I can rush through. No, you can't. You will, if there is a cop, you will be given a ticket. Because it is not a rollover, it is a stop. It's not a comma, it's a stop. So you have to stop there, and that is your responsibility fulfilled, and then the right of way is given. Similarly in life, whichever phase that we are in, whatever intersection of life that we are in, whether it is brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha or sannyasa, there are certain responsibilities that one has to fulfill. And having fulfilled those responsibilities, it unleashes the power of rights. It's like playing a game. You have fulfilled a certain level, and suddenly you get the power where you can. Until then you have struggled, but after that particular phase, now you have the power wherein you can choose. Suddenly you have a massive Hulk-like arms and strength with it. Or and have you played such games?
I think I've seen my brother play such games. So
you suddenly get those Having fulfilled your earlier responsibilities, these rights are like unleashed powers. But when we do upside down, wherein if there is a society where rights are the responsibilities are thrust and the rights are not empowered, they're not given, there'll be an unrest, there'll be a chaos. Or a society where it is taught about its rights and not focused much upon its responsibilities, there will still be unrest. So two societies that when people ask me question, Swamiji, you have been here 20 years, you have worked back in India. What do you see the major difference? I say in India, there is a focus on responsibilities, but the individual is not entitled or not empowered with the rights. So you feel suffocated. Here, the rights are emphasized, but the responsibilities are not. Then there is a sense of entitlement that, I need to have it because it is my right. People forget the basic simple fact of life that you are entitled for your rights only when you fulfill your responsibilities. Otherwise, irresponsibility seems to be getting its perks by just focusing on the rights of it. So there will always be a chaotic environment if one is given a precedence over the other and not sequentially looked through. I think I'll stop with that question there. Not the whole session, I'm talking about this particular question, answering it. So let me see if I can add. Ashwin, do you want to go?
Sure.
Sure. See, when we talk about wealth, we often misread that our Hindu scriptures talk about dropping the wealth as an unnecessity. That is never the criteria. Wealth is always seen as Lakshmi Devi. And it talks about even to enjoy, there is a dharmic way of enjoying it. So the question is, how do we know that we are enjoying wealth in accordance to dharma?
So I think one way, maybe this is might be a good. As you said, wealth is beyond just material or money, right? It's any kind of wealth you have. But I think one anecdote which emphasizes this is I think I once asked Swamiji to mention, and I asked him, okay, everyone is praising you whenever you're coming. How do you take this praise without letting it, go to your head? How do you make sure that you maintain equanimity? And he gave me a good answer. He said, basically, if others praise me, yes, I'm happy. But if others go and they censure me, also they say some like bad things about me, I have that same feeling. So the idea is that if you have wealth, enjoy it. But if it gets taken away from you, you're not going to somehow lose your equanimity there. So I think that's the criteria there. So when you're really detached and you're from that wealth, then you're able to enjoy it even better, because even if it's gone, you'll still be happy and content with your life. So I think that's one way to think about it. And one way of maybe manifesting that is by dhanam, like giving away your wealth. So that's why we say give a certain % of your income or something like that. And the more you're able to give without feeling as pang of, oh, I'm giving out all my money, then the more you know that I'm not actually hoarding this wealth, I'm not attached to this wealth. So if you're able to have that mindset, then no matter what amount of wealth you have, you'll be happy with it.
Hari, do you want to add anything to it?
One thing I'd add is that this idea of responsibility is in my mind from that last question. So the moment that this enjoyment of wealth impedes the execution of my responsibilities, that's one way of knowing that it's not in line with dharma. For instance, if I have the opportunity, say, and I've seen this happen to a friend, where he had the opportunity to go to lots of games and concerts and everything. He met someone that they were, they couldn't go to these things as rich people often do. They buy tickets for many things. They can't go to it often, so they have to give them away. So he was the beneficiary of that. So basketball games, football games, Beyonce concerts, all of these things in like a given month. His work suffered. Plus his relationships at home suffered as well, where they were saying, you're never home for us, this and that. He missed his family member's birthday to go to a concert instead. So that's an extreme example, but here we find that in that enjoyment of wealth, responsibilities and commitments that I've made, those are suffering. That tells me that it's not in accordance with that dharma. Because as we've seen in the last question, then responsibilities come before those rights. And even the procurement of wealth is also a part of this. That I can say, yes, I'm enjoying responsibly the wealth that I have, but if I procure that wealth through adharmic means, that is not artha in line with dharma. So wealth has to be looked at from beginning of how I get it, all the way till how am I expending it, how am I enjoying it.
Let me add the second shloka of Bhaja Govindam. Moodha jahi hi dhanagama trishnam Kuru sad buddhim manasivi trishnam Yal labhase nija karmopattam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. I know MS Subbalakshmi Amma sang it very beautifully, but this is the best that you're going to get from me. Don't expect me to be singing that way. So the shloka says, Dhana agama trishnam jahi. To be expecting or to have that thirst, craving for amassing the wealth, get out of it. Kuru sadbuddhim manasivi trishnam. Get out of that trishna by satsanga, by educating your mind. Yal labhase nija karmopattam. So this is where the focus is. That how should that wealth be procured? In a dharmic way. Nija karma upattam. In your responsible way of life, you have earned that wealth. When that wealth is gained in that manner, then vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Vinodaya chittam. Enjoy. There is nothing wrong in enjoyment. Gurudev used to say that enjoy. There is nothing wrong in enjoyment, provided you know that that enjoyment won't last for long. That when it comes, welcome it. When it goes, don't stop it. Don't crave for it. Agate swagatam kuryat nirgate nanivarayet. When it comes, welcome it with a glad namaste. When it goes, bid farewell with a glad namaste. Don't get too elated when you get it. Don't get too saddened when it leaves, because it is not going to be permanent. And the best way, Guruji is to put this. So I quoted Gurudev, now Guruji. He says the best way to be happy and content is to make sure that those who are around you, that you are responsible for, are put in a place where they are happy. He's not talking about being the one that is a doormat, always trying to make others happy. He's saying, keep them in a position where they are constantly happy. They will not nag you to death. If they are not in that stability, if you have not taken care of that, then they will be behind you. So put them, take care of them, and let them be happy. Then you will be at peace. Thereby you will be enjoying whatever comes to your life and celebrate every moment that comes by. And such celebration expands further when you reach out to even the unknowns. And that is where I think, Ashwin, you mentioned, Danam is the factor where you reach out to that unknowns, which has got nothing to do directly or indirectly with you, but you still reach because you want to share this goodness with others around. however small, insignificant it might be, but reaching out and giving it is what expands it further. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, just something to add to that. I think all good points. And one thing about what Hariji, you were talking about, like we need to gain our wealth in a dharmic way, and that makes sense. And I think the reason why like it seems like even if you gain it in a dharmic way, you still be enjoying it at the expense of others, right? Others who are poorer than you cannot enjoy like you. So I think that's why this dhanam is so important, because you're able to kind of complete the circle. You cannot, you've seen these like billionaire families just keep their wealth with them. Then it's not going to be benefiting society. So I think that's just another point why dhanam is so important.
Here it is a path towards moksha rather than who wants to be the next billionaire or billionaire. Yeah, it's difficult to educate in that pattern, but at least if we can correct and make that corrective measure as a principle for our life to live by, that will surely help us and inspire several around us. Thank you both. I think with this question, we can come to the end of this particular session. I would have asked Hari to chant, but I know it will be taxing to expect him to chant. Siddharth, do you want to try?
Or Chalisa? Sure.
Okay.
Om Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raja Nij Man Mukur Sudhare Varano Raghuvar Vimal Yasha Jodayak Phalachare Buddhihin Tanu Janike Sumiro Pavan Kumara Bala Buddhi Vidya Deho Mohi Harahu Kalesha Vikara जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम वज्रांगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगे कंचन वरण विराज सुवेशा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केशा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिवे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिवे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज संवारे लाय संजीवन लखन जियाये श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाये रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाये तुम मम प्रिय भरतय संबाई सहस वदन तुम्हरो यश गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीषा नारद शारद सहित ईशा यम कुबेर दिक्पाल चहांते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहांते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवन कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीना तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्त्र योजन पर भानु लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानो प्रभु मुद्रिका मेल मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गय अचरज नाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते राम द्वारे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो नापै, तीनों लोक कहांकते कांपै। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों युग प्रताप तुम्हारा, हे प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरहि, हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करहि। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरै हनुमत बलवीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की न्यायी। जो शतवार पाठ कर कोहि, चूठई बंदी महासुख होहि। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, हो ये सिद्धि साकी गौरीशा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजय नाथ हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरणा, मंगल मूर्ति रूपा। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसौ सुर भूपा। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो रे भाई सब संतन की जय।
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Siddharth. Shri Sadgurunath Maharaj ki Jai. We'll do the Shanti Patha. Please join me. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। Take care everyone. See you next week with the next chapter, 18th chapter, which talks about sadhana. So if this realization has to be our experience in this lifetime, what is the sadhana and how does one streamline ourselves to practice it and make it happen? So we'll see that next week. Hari Om. Take care.